know to live and prosper in the United States. I'm your host, Luciana Da Silva with Kinetics USA. We are a direct hire company, and we match nurses from all over the world with permanent positions at healthcare facilities in the United States. We have an amazing show set up for you today. It is Financial Literacy Month in the month of April. So we're going to be talking about budgeting. How much do you need to budget to immigrate to the United States? Everything from pre-arrival to your first 30 days. We're going to be talking about renting an apartment, transportation. Wonderful show. If you are watching, please put into the chat your name, where you are watching from. We love to see people from all over the world watching our show. We have James saying they're tagging friends. Jefferson is watching from the Philippines, also saying good day, everyone. Pascal is watching from Suriname in South Africa. TJ from Nigeria. Welcome, everyone. And also welcome to our guests. We have two guest nurses joining us, as well as two financial experts. I would love for everybody to introduce themselves. Of course, we have a couple faces here that we all know and are familiar with. Let's start with Kay. Please introduce yourself to our audience.
Hi, good morning, everyone. My name is Kay. I'm a traveling nurse in the U.S. for 16 years now. Here in the U.S. for 17 years. OR nurse, L&D PACU experience, and I am currently in Maryland. I just finished my contract with Johns Hopkins. I love the idea of retiring young, financial independent, retire early for nurses. That's my proponent. And I'm well known to the traveling community as Travel Nurse Hacker, where I explain a lot and discuss things on how to work smart and not hard. So that's me. I talk.
Very knowledgeable person with lots of experience when it comes to living in the United States. You've lived so many different places, so we're really excited to hear from you. And of course, we have Nurse Swan, another face that everyone is familiar with. Please introduce yourself.
Hi to everyone. My name is Nurse Swan. I'm a content creator, and also I'm a nurse here in the United States for roughly about 3 years now. I started as a regular staff nurse, agency nurse. Then now I moved to travel nursing. So I've been here for 3 years, and I learned some few tricks that will really help save a lot, especially for those like starting here on a budget. I can give some few tips, and I learned a lot, and I learned a lot from Kay as well. So Kay will discuss more the technical stuff. I'll discuss some of the more basic things. So yeah, that's it.
We love hearing all sides of the story. And we also have our financial experts today, Vincent and Mila. Please introduce yourselves to our audience and give them an idea of your background.
Hi, everyone. Good morning. My name is Myla, and I'm based here in Austin, Texas. I've worked as a nurse for about almost 20 years. So I started my work experience back in the Philippines, and then I was recruited as a nurse in Ohio. So I worked for Cleveland Clinic, and then I moved here in Austin. But now I'm glad to share this opportunity with you all as a financial educator. And my goal is to empower nurses. So nurses are so dear to my heart because I'm a nurse as well. So for this morning, I would love to share with you my own experience and how it can help you.
And my name is Vincent Villaflor. I'm quite the kind of support of the nurse when we migrated in the US back in like Kay. We're here for almost 17 years already in the States.
Welcome to all of our guests, and also here in the audience, people are saying hello. Evangeline is watching from Manila in the Philippines. Monique is saying hello from Jamaica. Danielle also from Jamaica. We have Andrew from Kenya, Mohammed from Jordan in the Middle East. Evangeline is also tagging some friends. So welcome to everyone. Let's get started. I'm going to start with you, Kay. Tell us about your journey to the United States. Why did you decide to work as a nurse?
It's my story is very different than majority of everybody. My goal
Love
was
it.
to go for medicine, and I screwed up my application form in USD. So instead of putting biology, I ended up, I guess, putting the wrong code for nursing. But say, you know what, I'll do it. So it was accidentally done, but I love it. I never left nursing. So that was my journey. And coming to the United States again, it was an accidental. I didn't know that it was an interview that I went in. So they told me, hey, congratulations, welcome to this hospital in New York City. And I just said, excuse me, you just hired me. So everything was accident. Took me only less than a year, and I'm here in the United States after that. 22 years old. I have no idea what I'm doing in New York City by myself. So I really learned the hoops and everything, tried to learn as much as I can, made a lot of mistakes at the beginning because nobody was guiding me as well. So that was my history. And every single day, I just had a goal to, I have to learn something. I have to learn. So I have to keep myself educated and well informed about my decisions in life. And here I am. I said, my goal was to retire at 55. I equipped myself early at young age, first year, second year, third year of my career, fifth year, everything was pushed down. Majority of my salary went to my retirement, and I can say before 40, I can choose if I can work or not.
Woo! Good for you.
Yeah.
That's awesome. When that happens to me, you're going to find me on a beach somewhere, maybe New York. Yeah. Awesome goals. Nurse One, you also have a really cool story. Tell us about your immigration and your journey.
Oh, yeah. For me, I've been a nurse in the Philippines. And ever since I took nursing, the aim is always to be a nurse in the United States. But unfortunately, retrogression happened. So it took me like 10 years before my American dream would have come true. Philippines was a bad place to work and a bad salary level also. So I tried to move to Singapore. Singapore was a good paying place, but the work was also like really bad. So I was trying to find a better place, and fortunately, US opened, and it did provide me with both of them, like financially and work wise. It's super duper okay here versus from those two countries that I worked with. I started a staffing agency. Um, I had some struggles when I started, but kind of moved towards to travel nursing, and travel nursing changed mostly everything. So now I am truly happy that I was born or I took up nursing um, growing up. So that's it.
Such a wonderful career to be able to help others and doing that journey in order to do that and help the nursing shortage here in the United States. Vincent and Emil, you're also immigrants. Tell us about your journey to the United States, and then also why did you decide to start a financial business here?
Well, during that time, it was the only way to have a better future is like as what is being told by my mom is to be a nurse. Okay, so I got into nursing, and I and then she said, "Oh, okay, now that you're graduated, so you have to get out of the Philippines, okay, out of my home country." So basically, it's really we're looking at United States as the land of opportunity. That's why I end up being a nurse. Okay, so it was a good transition for me. I mean, as I've said, I work for Cleveland Clinic and then transition here in Austin. But I've seen a lot of nurses working so hard. And I myself, we nurses, for most of us, we know how to make money. That's why we see a lot of nurses working 2, 3 jobs. Okay. But it came to a point 10 years ago that, okay, no matter how much you earn, it's really that important. It's how much you keep. Okay. So I see people at the age of 50s getting into nursing, 68 years old, still working. So I said, there's something wrong with it. Okay. And that's why when it was shared to me, this financial knowledge, I looked the leap of faith to try to see this. And moving forward, I mean, I saw that need of that financial knowledge, and now I'm helping a lot of people, especially nurses, healthcare providers, everyone, anyone, to build a strong and solid financial foundation. And that's my mission that I look into.
As Milo mentioned, I supported this decision from being a nurse to having that mission to help others, not only nurses but everybody in the community, to have the strong financial foundation in the U.S. And as I've said, as immigrants, we have our heart for the immigrants, especially those who are just coming. So we educate them how to establish themselves in the country.
Okay, when you found out you were going to New York City, how did you go about researching a budget for how much money you would need whenever you came?
Oh my goodness, Luciana, I'm 21 years old back then. So for me, YOLO, you only live once. I have no idea about budget. I would like be, oh my God, I'm in Manhattan. Like, we all know this is one of the most expensive place, but I didn't, it was a culture shock for me when I get there. I was eating McDonald's in the Philippines would cost me like, that time was 40 pesos, which is like less than $1. When I got to the US, I only brought $200 with me because I had a problem with uh my recruiter and my job. So I did not realize that a McDonald's would cost me like from $40 in the Philippines for a burger, fries, and drink. 40 pesos, sorry, it will now cost like 700 pesos. So I was using my sister's credit card for emergency, and she called me one day and she said, "What did you eat in McDonald's?" So I'm like, I have no idea. I'm so sorry. I'm so starving. And I didn't realize how hard it is. And I was like, to the point I only have $20 left in New York City. And it was really a struggle. I don't know how to do it. I started looking for people to adopt me. Really.
People to adopt you, cook you some food, make you feel better. And it's really interesting when people first come to the United States, they actually want to try the McDonald's here. So you are on the right path there. I want to ask Vincent and Mila, tell us about what should a nurse keep in mind when they're researching to come to the United States and that budget question?
Okay. I mean, based on her experience, really, it's like we were excited. So the researching part, I think we left that off. So, but I think for now, I think it's lucky that nurses have this information ahead of time. So I think one thing is one first tip that I can say is like don't convert because if you convert from your home country going here, you might not buy anything because you're gonna return all the items in the grocery stores or something like that. So, but I mean, Myla can expound some of those are experience. Yeah.
So as Vin said, we really did not plan for it. We did not make any research and all that. Okay, but moving forward, for all of you who's about to come here to the United States, I mean, make a research of the anticipated expenses. Okay, like if you're, the apartment will not be shouldered, then you have to anticipate how much will it cost. Like groceries. I mean, you can search that, you can Google that one. So ask just to give you an idea, what are you looking at the projected expenses for the month? And also, I would want for you to to make since you know the expenses, then your anticipated income. Okay, but you have to consider the taxes with the income. So that's one of our biggest mistakes. When we came here, I was offered like $22, $23 per hour. We didn't know about taxes. No one educated us about that. So we were thinking we're going to get the whole money, the whole amount for that month. Okay, but it's like 25 to 30% of your income goes to taxes. So you have to budget the income, the cash flow coming in versus the anticipated expenses.
And when it comes to living in the United States, it really has to do with where you are living.
Yes, that's true.
Yep, the cost of living is so different from the East Coast to the West Coast. We actually have a chart here that gives a cost comparison of what it's like to live in different cities. You could see that Pennsylvania is very different from New York, which is very different from Austin, Texas, which is very different from Louisville, Kentucky. So there are these sorts of things to keep in mind as well. And in those states, the tax rates are different. Vincent, correct?
Yes, and just make sure that that you're like we came from Ohio, right? Ohio is we get taxed where we work, then we get taxed where we reside. So we also have the state tax. So when we move to Texas, Texas has no state taxes, no city taxes or something. So you need to also know that parameters. And one of the good thing also is if you know somebody living in the area, talk to them and ask them some tips also. It also gives you, or join the community of nurses in that area or something like that.
And we have nurses joining the chat and asking all kinds of questions. Martha is saying hello and watching from Zambia, Africa. Hichu saying, hi, dears. I'm MLS from Iran. Could you please help me how to start to apply for the visa screen? Well, first you need to apply to Kinetics USA. Go to our website, kineticsusa.com/apply. Our recruiter will reach out to you, and then we can hook you up with a job here in a healthcare facility. So kineticsusa.com/apply. Nurse Juan, great to have you back. I saw that you were having little technical difficulties, but we are live. So always keep that in mind. Juan, how did you go about budgeting for your journey to the United States?
Honestly, like, hey, I came here without like really totally realizing what I'm going into. I didn't know about the uh, insurance for the health insurance. It's not free. I didn't know how bad it was for the car insurance here if you don't have all those proper licensing. I didn't know that tax was gonna eat up like a big part of your salary. So, but before that, I did some research. So I just tried to be ready as much as for good for 3 months because I had a couple of people who came ahead here and they gave us a rough estimate of how much we should be having for each month budget. And the worst case scenario was always to think that your social security number will arrive late. And the latest from one of our colleagues here is like 3 months. So we did try to figure it out. The main thing, the biggest part of the budget is the housing. Good thing here in Kentucky, in this eastern part of Kentucky, the housing is super cheap, so it wasn't that big of a chunk. Um, I think other things is just get an idea from people who already are staying in the place that you'll be moving in. So try to communicate with them, and that's the best tip I can give to you guys.
Wonderful advice. And we're going to be getting more into renting an apartment and how much that costs, as well as transportation later on in the show. So make sure you stay tuned. Vincent and Mila, what I want to ask you next is when it comes to saving money for their journey, what do you recommend for people, for families to do to save money? What are some tips?
Okay, I mean, I think one of the great tips that we can say based on our experience here is spend less, earn more. So that's the main thing. So, and also, I mean, we teach about the needs versus want. So most of the time, I mean, you get when you come to the U.S. On your first few days or first month, second month, you get excited. Oh, I can buy this because the opportunities are really kind of like limitless. Like you can enjoy the things that you haven't enjoyed where you came from, and I think the as shown in the screen, like the budgeting of operation is a big deal. You need to be disciplined now, and you need to plan ahead on not only for today. I know Kate mentioned like about you live your the YOLO thing. So, but I mean, you need to also at least like what she did. You need to prepare for your future, for your retirement. You plan ahead, and of course, always check on the taxes portion of it. How much taxes they're gonna take out from your pay, and how much inflation currently is by like post-pandemic, pre-pandemic. The prices are different right now compared to before. So just be mindful of your expenses, and of course, as Nurse One said, the main the main budget that you need to focus on is the housing, and again the next one is transportation and all those things.
So, well, I want to also point out, before coming here in the US, I would suggest really, to be able to bring, a sufficient amount of money that you have saved. And I mean, start saving already while you're there, whichever country you're coming from. Okay. And try to bring, not something borrowed if as much as you can, because you don't want to, it's hard to start life here and then you owe a good chunk of money back home, right? So if you can not try to borrow, it may be tough, but it's doable, okay? And when you're here in the United States already, I mean, in terms of saving, one thing, I mean, money in, money out, okay? Whatever you're earning, you make it sure you're able to allocate something for your expenses, but you gotta pay yourself first. And that's where you're able to start saving, okay? So allocate something for those expenses, but at the same time, saving for yourself. Because if something happens, it's not the typical country that we have once we're here, that you can borrow right away, right? So a lot of people have their own financial responsibilities here in the US, okay?
And the main thing is just avoid the what we call the deficit spending. So that's it.
A lot of people in the chat are making comments about taxes in the United States. Something to keep in mind that taxes in other countries, for example, in Europe, are much more of a piece of your income that you're actually paying for taxes. And that's the same for many, many countries. So people may think, oh my gosh, taxes in California, it's crazy. But if you really put this into perspective with the rest of the world, you might end up ahead, especially because the salaries are really great here too. Just a quick note on that. So flash question for everybody. One answer really quick. Kay, you already kind of talked about this. Here's the question for everybody. How much money did you bring to the United States? And in what form did you bring the money? Kay, answer.
$200 and keep in mind that I will work for food that time. So it's not a very smart thing to do.
Juan, what about you? How much did you bring? And was it cash, a loan, checks?
For me, I brought I think $9,000. I brought cash, but I also brought an ATM that's from Singapore, and we did use that eventually. For the first 2 months, the 9,000 was just went away. That's how bad the expenses was during the time. So, but everything was worth it. So yeah.
Yeah.
And Mila, how much do you think a nurse should bring in their pocket with them to the United States? Also, cash or a debit card? Should they also exchange their money to dollars beforehand?
Well, how much did I bring first is about $500, okay? And I think I remember I brought it cash, okay? But, ideally, realistically speaking, I mean, that one said 9,000, I mean, that's pretty realistic, 9, 10,000, because if you won't have, something happens, you want to cover first 2 months at least. The best, first 3 months. So you're looking at about 3,000 to 5,000 expenses, depending on how much expenses you have. So bringing it, you can have some cash, but you can hide. In our country, you can put it anywhere, right? The Filipinos here know what I'm talking about. You can put it in your socks, you can put it in your bag, somewhere that you can hide your cash. Okay, but you also can set up like a bank account. So some Philippines has like US bank accounts that you can kind of link it here,
like a dollar account or something. And because what happened for me and Myla, we are like two months apart. She came here because I still have some work. So what happens is you can bring actually the cash, but make sure that it's below 10,000 because we have the anti-money laundering that also in place. So you don't want to have that to be in trouble. And I also bring my credit card from the Philippines when we came here. So it's kind of like an emergency situation that you have that backup plan. Because as Milo mentioned, when you come here, you're not sure right away that you're gonna get all the things that is settled for you or set for you.
That's just wonderful piece of advice. So you're saying don't bring more than $10,000 cash to the United States with you. What about after that? Is there a certain limit that people can transfer in a year? What are the implications of that?
Yeah, it's still the same. I mean, $10,000 is kind of like, and depending on how what the movement of your money. So there's some regulations that are in place. So when you transfer, like some people get around it, but the thing is, just make sure you have the legitimate sources, and you can also always have that backup documentation where you got the money. If it's from your dad, from your parents, or something, it's from inheritance, something like that. You need to have those documentation in place, because just to let everybody know that financial you know regulations are in place, especially when you're bringing the cash portion of it, because they're gonna ask you when you go to the immigration how much cash do you have or something.
We're saying Arden here in the chat is saying you can bring more than 10,000 with you. So if you bring more than 10,000, you're going to have to pay taxes on that. Is that correct? Or
You can get penalized actually, because there's a regulation in place that you don't really want to have that, because the anti-money laundering started especially during the 9/11 before, so because of that anti-terrorism bills and everything like that law. So.
Alfred is asking, is the 10K allowable per person traveling, or is it for each family member? So if there's a family of 4, can they bring 40K?
Well, I would say just check on with the immigration authorities, because I can say kind of like ballpark 10,000, but make sure, because every regulation changes every day. So, but those questions can be asked prior to you coming here, so that you'll not be in trouble.
And one thing that I suggest, probably, if you bring a good chunk of money, I mean, the one that is legitimate to bring, and then, but before coming here in the U.S., you find how can you send money, like coming from your home country to this country. Like we have MoneyGram. That's one way to transfer money. Okay, so you can or Western Union. So that's another one. So you can, if you trust somebody back home, then send it, like, certain amounts of money coming here, rather than risking the whole chunk of your money or a big lump sum of your money being sent right away, one time.
So now that we've talked about bringing money to the United States, everybody needs a place to put it, right? So let's talk about opening a bank account. Kay, tell us about your experience opening a bank account here.
It's a very good experience that I have when I got here in the U.S. When I started my job is a unionized hospital. So sometimes they will tell you, hey, you're part of this, let's say, for my experience, it's New York State Nurse Association. So NYSNA is affiliated with Bank of America. So we get like a welcome packet from our employer that's saying, if you open this bank account in here, and then you will be also approved with credit card. So that's my first thing that I always encourage people to check before coming here in the United States. Look at your options. Check in the hospital if they have affiliations with credit unions, because you will be able to have a very good rate for mortgage later on. Check that credit union that's affiliated with your hospital. If you don't have anything credit union affiliated with the hospital, you might want to try next is your State Nurses Association. So they have members are sometimes affiliated with those banks as well. And you can get credit card with higher credit limit as well, as well as with banking, checking and savings account. If you don't have a State Nurse Association, go to the unions. If you've exhausted that 3 option, then I guess you have to just check your local bank.
All sorts of options. Nurse Swan, What did your first 30 days in the United States look like, and was opening a banking account part of it?
Yes, definitely. But before that, can I just add in about the budget to bring into the US? From what I understand, is $10,000 is per family. You can bring more than $10,000 when you arrive here, but you just have to declare it. And I don't think there's a penalty from what I understand from some of those who just came in here. So you just have to declare. I think there's a form that you have to fill up. Okay. Anyway, going back to the 30 days, uh, for opening the bank, I think we opened within the first 5 days I arrived here. Our agency has a connection with some of the local banks here, and they were able to talk with the bank for some of the things that they can bend for the rules. Like one of the requirements for getting a bank is definitely permanent address. So for us, when we arrived here, we didn't have any permanent address. So the bank was able to bend the rules for us and just place the hotel for our permanent address. Then also, they also bend the rule wherein the social security number requirement. They just use our US Visa passport, and since they have connections, they're able to bend that rule as well. So opening the bank wasn't a big problem for us. Though we wish we could have like opened a bank with a credit union, like Kay said, with better benefits and like cheaper interest. And I did get a interest for my car with a local bank, and it was almost double when versus the one who came here who opened with a credit union. So credit union has a better options or better deals for new immigrants like us. So
Yes. Mhm.
Vincent, break down the process of opening a bank account. How does that work in the United States?
Yeah, I think I mean piggybacking on what on the 10,000 thing earlier. So yes, Juan's is correct that you need to fill up a form when you bring 10,000 or more. The penalty arises if you don't declare the 10,000. So
yeah,
that's what it is. But in opening a bank account, I mean we're lucky with because when Myla and I came here, the agent held our hand and go to the bank, to the local bank, have us drive on that bank, and then as a nurse once said, I mean, most of them is if you're immigrant, like a nurse, teachers, or something. So they have the leniency on the documentation part. So you just go to the bank, show your passport, at least show your offer letter from the employer, and just give the valid address of the in the US, whether you're living in an apartment or in a temporary housing. So they just have that. And then, as they also said, credit union is better because we have our first car, which is still running right now. We got it from the credit union, and we have a good deal on the interest rate. So yeah, and then just after that, I mean, they can initially issue you like the 10 pages of check. Then you can use that check to in any transaction that you have. So it's kind of like easier to have it as long as you show the documentation, even you don't have the social security number yet.
We're getting a lot of questions in the chat about that $10,000 that we were talking about earlier. So let's just go through them really quick. Beatrice is asking, if you're single, is it lower than 10K? Yes or no?
Yeah, it's kind of like a standard. So 10,000 is like per the party coming here. So as I said, there's a government site that you can check, like the Custom Border Protection that the government has it. The CBP has all the information on that one.
Mary is saying debit cards, talking about debit cards. Is there a limit how much you can transfer into a debit account? So you open your bank account, you didn't bring 10,000 in your sock, and so now you want to transfer money into this bank account. How does that work? Is there a minimum that you need to deposit in order to open the account? And is there a maximum, Mila?
I would suggest to check it
$25,
like with the actual bank. So whichever, because it depends, most likely depends also on the bank that you are in. So That's one way. And then another way
Yeah, and then
is
the thing about that one is like credit union or the bank. Usually they just require $25 just to open. For credit union, $25 membership, and then for the bank, you just probably have some banks require you to have $100, and they need to have the direct deposit feature so that you will not get the charges or something.
but you're asking about the like how much is the like you're allowed to transfer, is that right? Lucinda?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. So like how much can they transfer?
I mean, if it's coming outside of the U.S., I mean, for if you're here, domestic U.S., there's not that much about, but of course they will monitor all the movements of your money. But if it's coming outside, then that's the 10,000 limit will.
You just answered Harlene's question. Can we have our family member transfer some funds from the Philippines to the bank account that we're about to open when we get here? I see everyone nodding yes, that you can transfer that money. What about transferring investments?
I can add there. So the best way to go really about this, each bank has different rules when it comes to transferring funds from one bank to another. Let's say, I can tell this from my experience. I have, name it, TD Ameritrade, Bank of America, Merrill Lynch, Schwab, tell me all those TD, Robinhood. I have a lot, probably more than 8 investment banks. I believe in the diversification of accounts because, we've all heard about this Lehman Bank brother going down. Recently, Silicon Bank Valley went down. We have a lot of things going on. Robinhood trading stop. So if you're an investor, you really need to diversify where you put your investments. So I really recommend you guys looking into different protocols of each banks and make sure that that your bank is, if you can hold on to a bigger bank, that will be better. You can have 2 banks if you want. I personally do my own checking and I have 2 different, not 2 but more than business checking, my personal checking, and if I am in the hospital checking, because I keep it all, because sometimes it's easier for me to see the business on the other side. This is my personal expenses and these are my leisure expenses. Sometimes I do that, and each bank will have different rules of transferring. So you will have to coordinate with the bank. They will give you instruction. And you can call them ahead of time before you arrive here in the US. Call the toll bank number that they have online. And they're very helpful. They will give you a guide, a step. And sometimes there's like an actual banker who will help you individually on your needs.
So once a nurse opens their bank account, a big part of that is building credit. In the United States, we have a credit system, which many people in the world may not be familiar with. Let's give a really brief overview as to what is credit and why is it important. Vincent?
Yeah, I mean, unlike any other countries, I mean, the credit here in the US, I mean, your future interest rates will depend on your credit score and credit history. So that's why when you're new, most of the time, but they give you higher interest when you apply for a car loan or some apartment, they give you higher rates or something because you don't have the credit history yet. So, but the main thing that you need to focus on is how you spend your money. One big thing is the credit utilization. Let's say if you have a credit limit of 10,000, so you don't spend over that, or you don't spend at least 50% of that when you're here, because when you're doing that regularly, then it will affect your credit score. As I've said, I'm also a realtor, so what happens is if you want to buy 5 years from now a new house, it will also affect your interest rate when you buy a new home, or even if you want to rent an apartment or something. It also based on your credit score.
Juan, how did you go about building credit in the United States, and how long did it take until you got that first credit score?
Okay. For me, I think it took me like 4 to 5 months. I think I finally had a credit score. One thing I can advise is just one is try to check for apps like Credit Karma, or I forget the other app, just to see if you have any like credit score to monitor. Because sometimes, like for my wife, she hasn't like opened a Credit Karma before. Until I think like 8 months, she still doesn't have any credit score. So and not until she opened up the credit score, like with coordinated with those things, then she was able to see and monitor them. I was able to, I think I was able to build my credit mainly because for getting a credit card and just paying my bills on time. And sometimes, like I mentioned in my previous videos, I did have some penalties for doing simple things that I wasn't expecting, like asking for a bank about a credit loan or the APR. I didn't know that it will affect your credit score. So those little things, it would be nice to know about like what will happen or what things affect your credit score. The best thing I can give an advice is just pay everything on time, especially for the credit card and for your bills. And usually it will just go up slowly. And try, like what Kay said, try to open different kind of credit cards from different banks and get a bigger bank as well. Oh, also, can I add in about the bank transfer earlier?
Yeah.
Uh, for the bank, try like what Kay said, get a bigger bank, like a bigger, like a known branch kind of bank, because sometimes for those local bank, they have to go through to those big bank in order to transfer some bills. So sometimes you will be charged twice for like transferring some fees, and I experienced it personally. For opening for the cards, I think like for the credit union in Advancial before, I think it's only like $5 for you to open that. And for the US bank here, I think it's like $75. That's the minimum that you have to like put in cash there. So it is quite easy to open here. But as a new immigrant, it's best for you to do this physically. Sometimes online, they're not that, they're kind of strict and would suggest you to like go physically to certain banks to apply one.
And when you go to the bank physically, you also get to meet people there, get their business card, and then you can contact them in the future for questions you may have. Bigger banks, whenever our nurses are speaking about that, we're talking about Bank of America, perhaps Wells Fargo. I'm not sure if they have Chase Bank, exactly. So we're just naming off some banks here.
Yeah.
I want to, Mila, really quickly, what are some tips for nurses to build credit?
Well, first of all, I mean, of course, to build credit, you gotta apply for a credit card, right? Okay. But here's my tip, and this I'm speaking it from our experiences. Because once you start applying for credit cards, then one after the other, you're being offered with that. Okay, that's one thing that you have to be aware of. You are going to receive it from the mail and all, and then they will even entice you once you have the credit card is to increase your credit limit. Okay, so don't feel ecstatic with that one, because it can be a trap. Okay, so when you try to use credit cards to build up your credit score, which we need, I mean, to build up, to make loans, car loans, home loans, and all that, but you have to make it sure that if you use your credit card this month, you got to pay it in full in cash next month. Okay, don't ever get into that situation that you just pay the minimum. Right now, the credit card interest is like ranging from anywhere from 18 to 24%. And if you're just paying the minimum, then that's a trap that you cannot build your credit score. Okay, so just live within your means as you try to get those credit cards, and limit it. I mean, if you can afford like 2, 3, I mean, that's good enough for as long as you pay it in cash the following month, and that's where you can increase your credit score over time.
And be disciplined enough to, as Milo said, pay it off. And if you apply for a loan or something, so just make sure that you pay that on time too, because car loans, credit cards, those builds up your credit score, and also the time that you have those account open. So those things that you need to consider.
So build up your credit score, but don't get into debts, which a lot of us immigrants are getting into, because of those exciting things happening. Oh, I have now a 10,000 credit limit. oh gosh, then now your debt is 10,000, right? So yes.
And we have Alicia asking if it's a joint account, will it build up both of the credit
Yes.
scores? Yes, we got a yes there. So that's wonderful. If you want to live and work in the United States and experience opening a bank account and building credit and saving money, go to our website, kineticsusa.com/apply. Our recruiters are standing by. And like I said, we will match you with healthcare facilities that you can work, green cards, social security numbers to make all of this easy for you. Let's do a deeper dive into the expenses that people need to plan for whenever they arrive in the United States. Now, Vincent and Mila also provided a really cool graphic that shows, if we can bring those up, a graphic that shows kind of how the different expenses are divided, the main categories here. Let's take a deeper dive into this. Mila, if you want to speak to this graphic.
Okay, so if you can see in the graph though, so the biggest usually is like, the housing. So every one of us starts with an apartment and it just depends on where you're located. Okay, it may range, when I started in Ohio, that was like just 600, 700 apartment. But here in Austin, it's like, 1,300, 1,500. Okay, so, and then you have to allocate for transportation. Probably you can ride in a bus for a couple of days, a couple of weeks, but ultimately, especially if there's no public transportation, then you have to have those, you have to get a car, okay? And, groceries. So that's also another one. Utilities, food, health insurance, that insurance that I'm talking about, the medical and the healthcare, okay? So you got to make it sure that you also have health insurance, because if you get sick, then it's more costly. Okay, so life insurance, I mean, those living benefits, I would still, recommend that one, because as you all know, even if you have health insurance here in the United States, there's what you call co-insurance and deductibles. You still have to pay out of pocket, even if you have health insurance. Okay.
Yeah, I think just to butt in, I think Anna on the chat is asking where's the taxes on the graph. We didn't put the taxes on the graph because most of the time they deducted from your salary the taxes, and then you file the taxes at the end of the year. So just to segue on that.
So this is basically what we're looking at is your net income, your take-home pay. Okay, and there's one portion here that I would want also to highlight as part of it. You may look at it as an expense, but also you're saving and you're paying yourself first, investing. Okay, so you gotta pay yourself and save something like for emergency fund saving, so that if something unexpected expense happens, you can get it from that kind of savings bucket.
Kay, you've lived so many different places. You have a really good grasp on the cost of living and the expenses that people can expect whenever they arrive. Even though you came with only 200, you have a lot of personal experience and lessons to share. I want to get into renting an apartment. We just looked at that really cool graphic there. Renting an apartment was a really big chunk of that. How did that process look like for you? And in Manhattan, it's quite expensive, but what was the process like looking for the apartment and renting the apartment?
Just to give everybody a background, I've been here, I told you, 17 years, and I have moved for 13 times. So if anybody is willing to talk to me about really moving, I can be your pro go-to person.
With kids.
Yeah, with kids. Yeah, initially single, then eventually family growing, right? So I lived in Manhattan. Everybody knows one of the most expensive places to go. I was very lucky that the hospital gave us 6 months free housing, which never existed right now anymore. Just an FYI. First, it's not really a house. It's a dormitory for healthcare professionals. Okay, some of these places were actually, if you are going to a place where there's a lot of university and schools, you will find dormitories that are cheaper if you are on a budget. So that's one thing. If you go to metros or places where there's universities around. Before you jump into the US, the first things that you really have to go is go to rental apartment. Rents don't matter for state. You have to go to the zip code. Again, zip code, because I can be here cheaper, but after like 3 blocks from now on, it's a different zip code. So the rent is different. So again, when you look at the housing cost, don't look at the state, don't look at the city, look at the zip code. So you gotta go to Zillow, rent.com, apartment.com, look at the prices of the housing there. So that's how you will get a really good grasp of how much it will cost you. And also when you do budget, you have to get your gross salary, right? Gross, monthly gross, and then minus the taxes, just give about 20% taxes on it, and then minus housing. So again, gross paycheck, gross salary per month minus 20% taxes on it, just an average, and then minus the housing. So at least you got majority of the budgeting off already on your plate. So that's how you go about budgeting for the housing.
And Juan, whenever you got your first, whenever you rented your first apartment, what did the move-in expenses look like? Did you need to pay some sort of security deposit, 2 months up front? What did you need to buy? Give us an idea of that.
You're muted. You're muted, the one. Okay.
Unmute.
Anyway, I can jump in just in case when.
Okay.
Oh wait, there we go. This one has it going.
I'm sorry. Like for me, thankfully we had a good landlord like who caters for Filipino near our area. And like what Kay said, you have to really search for a specific place that you want to stay, like a zip code. Because like here in our place, like in Prestonsburg before, it was super, super cheap. But just few blocks, like 10 minutes away, the price is almost like double. So you really have to do your research. It is more expensive to stay or live near the city. If you can find an apartment like outside the city, but the transportation time or allowance is still good, then I would suggest doing that. For me, I think for my first apartment, I only had to pay like $425 per month, and that is really really cheap. And it's like a one bedroom apartment with all, not including the amenities though. What else? And take note about the budget for like getting an apartment. If you have to compute, take note about the amenities as well, like for if it's the water included, the electricity is included, the Wi-Fi, and all those things. So you have to pay, like for me, I have to pay 1 month advance and 1 month deposit. So it wasn't that bad. It's only like $800 or $900 for me. Plus I have to pay like a additional advanced cleaning fee. I think I paid like $150 for that. So overall, less than $1,000 for me.
We have Anna in the chat saying, when I moved from Westchester, New York to Orange County, New York, I paid $2,000 in moving companies. The new apartment asked for apartment insurance before we moved in.
Yes.
Vincent and Mila, give us an idea about this apartment insurance, security deposits. What does that usually look like from the technical side?
Okay, so as a real estate professional, I just help a nurse from just came in from the Philippines here. So what it happens is, first you need to when you apply, you need to pay probably like ranging from $50 to $75 application fee, and then after that they're gonna ask you again. They're gonna check your background and everything like that. They're gonna ask you to pay the security deposit, is most likely equivalent to the first month rent. And then after that, they're gonna ask for your home renter's insurance, as they call it, renter's insurance. So, but most of the time, if you're out, not yet in the country, you might not have that yet. So they might give you like a waiver on that, and then they get you. But when you're here, you need to at least address that first. You need to get in the local area that you can have the renter's insurance for that one. And then after that, then you're gonna have the moving in. It sometimes there's a multiple application on that unit, so just bear in mind. And sometimes they decline you, so just make sure that you always have to follow up. You don't assume that you're already approved. So you need to have an alternative too. So what happens is when they contact a local realtor like me, we give them alternatives. Like, yes, you apply for this one, but you're not yet accepted yet. So you need to look for others, alternative and options.
How much does a credit score matter when renting an apartment? Do you have to have one? Or what if you don't?
Yes, you have, but and here's the thing also. One of the requirement that we are seeing right now is your rent should be at least three times. I mean, one three times your salary should be three times of the rent or four times of the rent that you have. So, but the credit score, as I've said, and Nurse One and Kay said, I mean, it sometimes if you don't have it yet, they differ that, but the credit score. It really varies from landlord to landlord depending on the property manager, but most likely around 600 up. Those are the things that they accept. So.
This is such a wonderful conversation that we're having here. I'm looking at the clock and we're already running out of time.
Can I add quickly on that? Sorry, Luciana.
Go ahead.
Yeah, about the housing, if you don't have credit score, this is what I do for a lot of nurses coming in here. So what I when they reach out to me, "Okay, I need your help. Can you check out if I can find housing in the US before arrival?" So I always recommend them, if you don't have housing provided by your employer, stay with stay with a hotel if you can, temporary housing, hotel or family or relative for the next 2 weeks. Okay. Because the first thing that we can do is we can apply, even arrival here, we can apply. But I recommend these nurses to have all your financial statement ready before coming here.
Mhm.
I want to have your employment recommendation, employment letter, job offer, contract. I want to get a certification from your employer that you are employed really for them for 3 years, and you will have a constant income for 3 years. So as soon as they get in here, we submit that together with me with the property management. Some property management really just need like a statement coming from employer that, hey, yeah, she is our employee and she has a contract for us for 3 years, and this is showing her income. So some property management that I have talked to, mostly are the smaller ones, they have the tendency to allow those even without credit history. But they just need to make sure that they verify it with your employer. So get the
Mhm.
employer's number, get the contact number, contact person from your employer, so the management facilities can call and verify.
And you can do the same whenever you are, opening utilities and so many other sorts of accounts that you need to start with up front. Is that right?
Correct.
Yes.
Yes.
It's like your proof of I'm working here.
Yes,
In
exactly.
addition to the green card that you'll also be working with when you arrive. I want to get to some last final pieces of advice from everyone. Nurse Juan, let's start with you. What is the number one piece of advice for nurses coming to the United States when it comes to budgeting, money, all that good stuff?
Okay. I got some few tips here. Give me a second.
He wrote them down. It's awesome.
I have some few down here. Number one, make use of the freebies that you have here. One good thing for like simple things, like for simple expenses like buying some groceries, those kind of things, you can do like a couponer. That's a term. Be a couponer here. There's always a lot of freebies. You can save as much as like $30 per grocery just by using your coupons. Another thing is to use an auto pay for certain things. Those can give you some discounts continuously, like for cell phones, like for I think for car loan. Like for me, I was able to like have a little bit of discount because of that, and some for the electricity, so you can use that as well. What else? For food, make sure for food, it's best to try to not eat out always. Try to cook for yourself. It's always cheaper that way. Much, much cheaper. Just imagine the bills that you have to pay plus the tips that you have to pay sometimes. So those add up. It might not seem a lot when you first try, but if you try to add up for the whole month, it will really show like how much big of a difference it is versus like just cooking at home. What else can I say? Um, yeah, I think, and just do some more research, get information ahead, and those small things can pave a long way. And listen to Kay.
Absolutely.
Kay has a lot of information that can give you some, especially for taxes and technical things, and with services as well.
Yes, and also I'm just seeing a quick question here from Dorothy. If the apartment's fully furnished or if you need to buy your own appliances such as a stove to cook at home, like Nurse Juan was saying, there's everything that you can have. Some that are furnished, some that are not furnished, some that
Yes.
come with a microwave, some that don't, some that have a refrigerator, some that don't. Depends on where you live and what you need. So it's the land of everything. Is what all the choices. Mila, what are some final pieces of advice you can offer immigrants coming to the United States in terms of budgeting?
Well, I mean, a couple of things here. I mean, you gotta, I would suggest write down your expenses versus your income, cut down on, unnecessary expenses, use free apps. I mean, eat on happy hours. Here in the US, we have those. So you can minimize that. Then you can also, most especially, I mean, you gotta look at your financial foundation, okay? So wherein you have that protection, that debt management, that emergency funds, that investment. Okay, so this is what we do in helping families, how you can build a solid financial foundation. Be proactive. You plan ahead. Even from your home country, you're still in your home country. You try to make a list of those anticipated expenses. Okay, how much most likely the net income, if you can get an overview on that one. And at the end of the day, discipline, mind setting, and goal setting. So now that you're here in the US or coming here in the US, okay, so you have to have a set of goals, but you have to mindset yourself that you're here to achieve those goals. And the most important thing is put it into action and track your progress. So, yes.
And one last thing that I would like to add is, don't forget, you came here, some of your family members are left behind in the home country. Put the budget on the money that you will be sending to them. So I know some people are very generous. They even have that same amount of their housing, they send it back home. But make sure that put something for yourself first before you send money back home, because that's you're the breadwinner. If you're the breadwinner, if you're the main earner or something like that, take care of yourself when you're here.
And yes, I mean, if financial crisis happens, Lucinda, we've seen this a lot, many, many times. Okay, so it's hard to borrow money from your home country because the conversion is a lot different. Okay, it may be 100,000 or 500,000 there, but it's just a very minimal amount here compared to the US dollars. Okay, so you gotta start saving while you're trying to pay those obligations on a monthly basis.
What wonderful pieces of advice. Vincent and Mila, please put your contact information in the chat. They'll be doing that right after the show. So if anybody has any further questions or would like to hire them for their services, you can visit their website. Also, you can visit the Kinetics website if you would like to apply to become a nurse in the United States, kineticsusa.com/apply. Our website also has lots of resources about financial topics. So everything that we've mentioned here, how to rent an apartment. We also talk about how to buy a car. What is dental insurance? What is health insurance? How to rent an apartment. So all of that is also on our website. And we have lots of future shows that we're going to be speaking about it too. Thank you so much to all of our guests for joining us today. And I know that we will see all of you again in the future. So thank you very much. And now just to close the show, I just wanted to go over some of our future shows that I just mentioned that we have coming up. Here's a calendar. Next week, we're going to be doing a client showcase looking into a healthcare facility called U of L. On April the 28th, we're going to be doing an immigration Q&A where you can ask our lawyers questions directly. We're also doing a special immigration show about retrogression this Monday. Also, Kinetics Career Day. Now we're going to get into Nurses Month. Nurses Month is the month of May here in the United States. So it's going to be kind of like flash dating with U.S. healthcare facilities. We're going to have so many different companies on our show that are going to be telling you all about themselves. Game show coming up after that. That'll be a lot of fun. You will have the opportunity to participate and win prizes live. More immigration sessions on May the 19th and on May the 26th. We're really going to be getting into direct hire recruitment companies versus staffing recruitment companies like Juan and Kay came in on. The LaFora Talk Show, you can never forget, we're going to be talking about the next generation NCLEX next week on the 18th. On April the 1st, we actually had a big change in the NCLEX exam. Now there is the next gen NCLEX exam. So we really want to focus on that and give you some tips. May 9th, work-life balance, which is important not only for nurses, but for people all over the world. Thank you so much again for joining us. And as we always say, onwards and upwards. See you next week.
Thank you for having us. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.